Hello, good evening. My name is Tunde. I'm going to be your Oracle trainer for the next 4 weeks to 5 weeks. So depending on how fast we can go, and also I've been doing or I've been working with Oracle for close to, well, I would say probably over 15 years. So, and I've done quite a lot of implementation for various companies. I'm always a contractor, so I don't do permanent jobs. So I'm always a contractor. So, and I've been doing Oracle implementation for HR for the past over 15 years now. So, like I said, this is only going to be for 4 to 5 weeks. So as much as we can cover, we will try. So now this training is a combination of I would say probably support and also implementation. Now, if I mean support, so that means somebody who works in HR who needs to use Oracle and to be able to enter people's details. That means new hire details, their names, their employee number, all those kind of details. So that's going to be support. So which will be you get the details for a new hire, you put it on the system. That will be their personal details, their assignment details. So assignment details will be where they will be working. So and also support is also there's an employee, you want to terminate them. So basically it's going to be between hire to fire. So which is, well, whatever whatever your tax will be for the company. And also the second stage of the training will be to implement, because there's some people they like to enter the details, while there's some people they like to know what is the back end of what they are actually entering for the employee. So because when you are entering information, you don't know where the information is coming from, so somebody actually implemented it. So that's my own background. So I do a lot of implementation more than support. I can do support as well, but I do a lot of implementation. So our focus mainly for this next 4 to 5 weeks will be on implementation. Now, what I'm just so that I don't bore you with too much details, I will just focus on some of you might be probably familiar with HR. Now, HR is human resources, so we all know what that means. When you get to a company, they hired you. So what they normally do, they get your details. Before you start, they get all your details, which will be your name, your your first name, your last name, your national ID. Your address, your location. So a lot of personal information, they will get it from you. And once they get it from you, then it's now up to them to make sure they put you in the department where you work, because you are not going to be the one that will choose your department. So they will be the one that will say, yeah, this is the department you're going to work. This is going to be your position. This is going to be your job. Basically, they decide that. But when it comes to your personal information, that's your personal information. They don't decide your personal information. So that's what I've got here. So for example, when somebody comes in for the first time, the first thing they would ask is, what is your first name? So I'll just put this there. So first name. And the second thing they ask is, what is your last name? So I'm just using this as a kind of sample. So your last name, your first name. The next one they will ask is, what is the title? So you could be a Mr. or Mrs. And also what's the gender? So which is a male or female. So also they ask, okay, this guy that we're hiring, is it going to be an employee or is it going to be a kind of contingent? Contingent is somebody who's going to be there temporarily. So if it's going to be permanent, so that means you're going to be an employee. So if it's going to be an employee, we always call it person type in Oracle. So person type is the same thing with I'll just say employee. So it could be an employee or it could be a contingent, so which is somebody who's working temporarily. But this is permanent, this is temporarily. Here they get your address, Also, they get your status. So status will be your marital status. So if you're married or single, so I'll just put there. So these are the kind of information they will collect from you, and also they will collect your age or date of birth. Just a DOB. So DOB. So what else? Also, at times they ask you, are you registered disabled or not? So I'll just say registered. This is not really mandatory, so because you can agree not to say. So this is registered disabled. What else information? Yeah, also your national insurance. So I'll just say NI. So these are kind of main information which they would need from you as a new hire. And if you're working as HR, you will get familiar with things like this. So if you hire somebody in your organization, you need all this information. So I'm just trying to think what else it can be. Yeah, so I've mentioned address. Yeah, if I remember anything, I'll put it there. So these are the main ones which I can remember now. Now, once this information, remember, will come from you, so nobody can make this up. Now when it comes to when it comes to assignment will be, okay, we're hiring this employee, where is he going to work? So I'll just say organization, because it could be, if it's a multinational company, they might have different organization within the multinational company. So the organization, so within the organization, they can say, yeah, so you're going to be working in a specific department. So here they're going to say, yeah, this is the specific grade that we're going to give to this employee. What kind of job is he going to be doing? What position is it gonna be, is the person going to, so normally job is always generic, while position is always specific. For example, if somebody tell you I'm a manager, so job is always a manager. Let's say HR, I'll just say a manager. There could be many managers, so this is more as I'll just say generic. So I'll just say generic here. And position is always specific. So if somebody say, yeah, you're a manager, you say, okay, what kind of manager is that? So I am a HR manager. I'm an account manager. So one is specific and one is so normally the two of them, this kind of sound the same, but they're a little bit different. So job. So so I think I've mentioned grade. So location. So what location? Because if it's a big company, what location would the employee be based? So that one is important. And also what payroll? You need to put them in a specific payroll. So because you need to pay them, so they need to have a specific payroll. So this employee, are they going to be full-time or they're going to be part-time? Also, also who's going to be the supervisor? I'm just trying to think on top of my head. There's quite a lot of so I've mentioned job, organization. So yeah, assignment. Also here it is going to be a kind of assignment. I'll just say assignment status. There's so much on this assignment, so unfortunately I can't remember on top of my head now, but these are the main ones which are very, very crucial. So if we get to assignment, I will show you the screen maybe today or maybe next week, so you can just see how much information, and like I said, all this information are from the company, while all this information are actually from the employee whom they are actually going to employ. So there's so much information, but now if you notice what is here, this is what HR is all about. HR do, for example, if you're Oracle local HR within a specific organization within the company, you want to recruit somebody, this is what you're going to do. So let's presume you're working on a spreadsheet. So on the spreadsheet, you put their first name, you put their last name, their title, their gender. So this information are actually very important, and most of them are actually statutory as well. So these are the kind of information which you need to collect. And even from the government, you need to get all this information. And this is because this is some of the few things which you're going to use to pay them. For example, NI is very important. Also, age is very important. And once you do this, this would now be the organization or department or grade or basically where they are actually going to be stationed within the company. So make sure you remember this when it comes. This is mainly for data entry. But the reason why I have to do this is there's one thing for people to do a data entry, and there's another thing for people to know, okay, this platform for me to enter this employee or this new hire, where is the platform actually going to coming from? Who actually designed it? Who actually created it? So where is it coming? Because this is from the front end. There's something we call from front end. So front end is you just enter all the details. But from the back end, there's a lot of, for example, if you put title, there is Mr., Miss, there's a lot of chief, engineer, doctor. You're going to see a lot of list of values. So there's something which actually called list of values. So all this list of values, you're going to be wondering where are they coming from, because when you get here you can pick a list. When it comes to gender, you pick up a male or a female or unknown. So you need to know where it's actually coming from. When it comes to person type, you pick up either as an employee, is a contingent, or maybe it's a contractor. You pick up all those lists. You want to know where they're actually coming from. When it comes to address, the address will actually show you. Remember, if it's a multinational organization, they are located in different locations all over the world. The address style will be completely different. There's something we call address style. So the address style will be different. So for example, in US, they don't use postcode, they use zip code. So in maybe Abu Dhabi, they use different, everybody use different codes. So your address style will completely be different. So for example, if you want to, you are based in UK, you want to recruit somebody for your organization in, let's say, Abu Dhabi. So basically, once you enter the details, the address style will completely be different from UK, which you are always used to, because we're used to postcode, we're used to address line 1, address line 2, and also the county. But when it comes to US or any other country, they're completely different. So you need to know how to set up that address style. So, but from your perspective as a local HR, you can just go in and pick it up, but you need to know where it's actually been designed. So that's where we're coming from. So also when it comes to status, you see married, single, you see there are different lists within status. So you're picking up a list. You want to know where to set that list up so you can pick it up. For example, if you work in Nigeria, some people you want to add an engineer, because people like titles where we came from. So you need to put engineer, you need to put a chief. I'm just using that as a sample. So different titles, so you can actually add it. But when it comes to UK, you would probably not see those titles. You're going to be used to Mr. or Miss or Mrs. So, but when it comes to some countries, they like their honor. So you need to put the honor in the state. Sorry, the honor actually will be in the title. But when it comes to status, so married or single, so basically there's different types of information which you need to set up. Now for date of birth, that one is pretty easy. Whatever age they are, so you just enter the dates. So once you enter the date, it automatically do the calculation. So register disabled, this is not mandatory, so we can ignore that. So the NI number, so for NI, yeah, so you add the NI. If it's going to be, let's say if it's going to be US, I think they use SSN, so which is something like Social Security. So you need to get used to that as well. So let me just SSN. So in some other countries, they use different things. So I've worked in a lot of multinational companies. Everyone's security is completely different. So IDs. So some just use ID. For example, in Saudi Arabia, I think they use civil ID. So that's so in various countries, you need to know what they actually. So these are the kind of few things which we will try to set up within our limited time. If we cannot go to any other country, we can just use UK as a sample. So which is fine. So yeah. So once you do this, so from a local HR, you need to know this where the information are actually coming from. Also, when it comes to assignment, there's so many organizations. If I mean organization, I'm trying to say basically the department or the area which they're actually going to be working on. So that one is very crucial. So for example, if within United Kingdom, there could be almost 4 or 5 departments, or there could be quite a lot. I'm currently working on an organization within UK. They have probably close to, I don't know, I'll probably say probably close to 50 departments, even within UK itself. So there's quite a lot. So yeah, departments, grade. So people have different grades. Some of you are familiar with grades, and grades is attached to a rate. It could be rate, I mean, grade could be grade A or grade B or grade C. So grade A could be somebody coming for the first time. They're going to be entitled between 20 to 30K. So in between 20,000 to 30,000 pounds. So and somebody within grade B could be between 30,000 to 40,000. So all these grades always also have grade rates. So I'll just put here, I'll just put grade rates. So or grade rate or range, at times we call it range as well. So yeah, so there's a grade which is grade A or B or C, depend. There's some company they just use grade A to F. So between grade A to F, so the minimum would be the A, and while the maximum would be F. So F could be close to 6 figure, while the grade A could be just 5 figures. So 20K to 30K. So depend on how they want to put it. So remember, if you're doing implementation, all this information you would not know, so you will need to ask all this information. So also job, so there are different types of job, just like I mentioned, a manager, a director, different titles for a job. So the one we're really used to, especially where I came from, somebody would tell you, I'm a manager. Specifically, you don't know what kind of manager they're talking about. You just say, I'm a manager, or I'm a director, I'm different titles. But being specific, yeah, you can say, yeah, I'm a communication director, I'm a communication manager. So this is being specific. So you need to set all this up as well. But most of the time, people actually prefer, in most organizations, especially within United Kingdom, they prefer to use job and not position, because position is very, very difficult to maintain. You need to keep on maintaining it on a yearly basis. So people, especially in a multinational company, is so difficult. I mean, they actually specifically need to recruit one person to manage position, because they change this on a yearly basis. So most of the time, a lot of companies just prefer to use job. So even though this is generic, there's some companies they just make sure, even though it's generic, they make sure it's specific and generic at the same time. So they just use job and they ignore position, because job is very easy to maintain. You don't need to change it at all. So location, yeah. So I mean, depending on a multinational organization, you need to set up locations, especially let's say within UK. I mean, there's so many locations in UK, so you need to set all this up, depending on the company which you're working for. Also, payroll. Payroll we actually is actually used to identify how you will pay them. So, for example, if you are working in an organization that's got, let's say, 20,000 employees, I mean, if you have only one payroll and you try to run a payroll for 20,000 employees, it could error out. So most of the time, it's always good to divide this 20,000, let's say, into 5 or 6 payrolls, different payrolls. So basically, when there's an issue, you know that one specific payroll is the one that's having an issue, not every payroll. So only, I mean, but if you have one payroll, it could be an issue. So most of the time, you always, let's say there's 20,000 employees within the organization, you can actually divide into 5, into 6, into 7. I've seen on a company with 20,000 employees, they divide it into 7. So which makes it easy when they're running a payroll. So if there's an issue, it's easy to be able to identify the error. So an employee could be, like I said, could be a full-time, could be a part-time. Actually, this also could be agency. It could be a contractor. Sorry, a contractor. So it could be anything. So all this needs to be set up from the back end. You can choose it as a local HR. You can actually choose it, but you need to know where it's actually set up. Supervisor, every employee that you're going to hire, we have a supervisor. Definitely somebody needs to manage, or a manager. So at times I'm kind of used to using a supervisor, but this is the same thing with being a manager. Okay, so assignment status would be if you recruit somebody for the first time, their status will be active because they are active within the company. So if they're leaving, then so basically this is a combination of active assignments, or it could be termination. So people have different status. So you just need to get used to what the information generally. So there's still more, which to be honest, which I cannot remember now, but at least these are the main ones which you need to focus on. Now, like I said, this is from the point of view of a local HR who want to recruit somebody for the first time. We want to recruit a new hire. So these are the kind of information which you need to enter. And also there's one here which is called, we call it allowances. So that I just remember that one. Sorry, allowances. Oh. Okay, allowances is the same thing which we call elements. Now, these allowances will be a combination of allowances. Could be a car allowance, bonus allowance. It could be allowance of if you're within the company, the first year. The first year you are entitled to an extra £2,000 once you do 1 year within the company. So this is actually a breakdown into different elements, and once it's broken down into different elements, this will constitute a kind of pay. So an allowance could be a combination of either deduction, or it could be an earnings. So you either earnings, so I'll just say earning, or deduction. Remember, your pension is a deduction. There's so many. Also your NI is a deduction. So, and all this will be done by an element. So basically, once you start as a new hire, the local HR will add a specific element to your system, and it will automatically, the moment they add the salary. So actually, I need to put salary here. So the moment they add your salary, automatically they need to go into the system and add some deduction elements. So these elements, local HR can pick them up, but you as a consultant, you need to know how to create it or how to develop it, so the local HR can actually select it. So like I said, salary is there, and is on salary. I mean, nobody's on £40,000 per annum, and you get all the money. There will be a kind of additional allowance, or there could be a kind of deduction. So all this needs to put into consideration. But if we got time, I will show you how to do all this as well. So yeah, there's more. So if I just remember, I just remember these two anyway. These three. So if I remember more, I can just add it. So I don't bore you with all this. So I'm gonna send this to you so that people can just kind of get familiar with it. So I'm just going to use the PDF on my right hand side. Let me just expand it, and I pray that everybody can see. So let me kind of minimize this. I think it's too big. Okay, so let me put it to 125. Okay, yeah. So this is a PDF of one company which I work with. I think at probably around 13 or 14 years ago. So now I'm talking in terms of a consultant. You get into a company and I said, Tunde, we want to implement Oracle HR. Could you do it for us? And if you're very, very lucky, there are two ways to it. It's either you, because I mean, a lot of companies nowadays, they want to do buy one get one free. They want you to do a BA, which is a business analyst. In other words, within the company, they want you to get all their requirements. Remember, they're using one specific operating system. They're not using Oracle before. So let's presume they're using SAP or they're using any other operating system. It could even be an Excel. So they can say, yeah, this is what we're using before. Please, we want to implement Oracle. Tunde, could you start? So that means you're going to be the one that will do the business analyst. And and that could be take a long time, because if it's a very, very big company, it's going to take you a long time to even complete your role as a business analyst, because remember, you need to go to different sites. And I've worked with Oracle for a long time. Even within the same business, there's some organizations, or there's some one or two organizations can be using different operating system. It doesn't mean when you get into the company they're all using the same thing. It could be completely different. And if it's different, that means you have more headache. But it's a good headache, because as a consultant, you get your money anyway. But it's going to be a very good headache. That means you need to do a BA. For example, if one of the organization is using SAP, that means you need to do your BA role to get all the information on the SAP legacy system. And if the other organization is using another operating system, you need to do another BA role. But if every one of them are using the same, then you are very lucky. If they are not using the same, then you are not very lucky at all. I've worked in a company, they're all using separate one. So to me, it's okay. That means I'm going to be there for a long time. But for some people, that's going to be a lot of job. So now, that's the first one. So that means if you get to the organization, they want you to do the BA role so that you can do the implementation, then that's going to be a long time. Then there might be some organization, they've already done their own BA role. That means there's somebody within the organization who understands a little bit of Oracle, but he or she cannot implement, but maybe they have an experience wherever they're coming from before they join the company, so they know how Oracle works, but they cannot implement it. So someone like that would probably have done a BA role. They would have done the documentation. So what they need to do is you come in and start implementing. And this is a sample of one of the organization I work with. I think 13, 14 years ago. Actually, that was 2006 and 2007. So this is one of the companies which I work for, and they just handed this over to me. Now, even though they've done this, now remember, when you get to an organization for you to do an implementation and they've already done this, that means they've done their due diligence. They know what they wanted to implement. They're not moving to the right, they're not moving to the left. Though you can read it and you can say, have you put this into consideration? Have you considered this? You can do that, even though they can tell you, no, don't worry about it. That's going to be an enhancement or a change request in the future. What they just want, because they want you to spend as limited time as possible. So they just want, Tunde, could you just go in and start implementing? Maybe they want you for only 3 months. For example, when I was working with this company, they need me for only 3 months. I want them to need me for more than 3 months, because they've done their due diligence, they've done the documentation. They say, Tunde, do this for us. 3 months, you're off. Okay, no problem. Of course, when it comes to that, you don't argue with them. But while you're doing the implementation, you can start identifying issues and say, have you put this into consideration? This cannot be an enhancement. We need to fathom this into the implementation. We cannot finish implementation, go live, and you say, oh, okay, we now want to put into consideration what you mentioned. We've got to do it now. So, of course, that will not push your time within the company. So, for example, they actually handed this over to me. A copy of this, I've actually sent it to Sister Bolaji to send it to everybody. There's nothing confidential there, so I will just start from the beginning. So if you notice, this is May 2007, so which was 13 years ago. So So I'll just say, so summary of the proposal. Remember, I got this. So I do this. So they just handed it over to me and said, Sunday, implement it, no problem. But before you do the implementation, you need to read it anyway. So, and you're not going to read within one day. It can take you a week to read, or it can take you less than a week to read. So this is what I got from them. So you don't need all this. These are not actually implementation. So when I got it, so we don't need all this. So these are not part of, yeah. So the implementation actually starts from here, functional and technical requirements. So the moment I got this, the first thing I know, so because every implementation we have a security. So when you want to implement, you need to put into consideration, for example, like I mentioned, if you are working in a multinational organization and they hand over and they said, yeah, even though we are one, but and we all want to implement Oracle. Nevertheless, we don't want, let's say, UK to see the data used in US, and we don't want US to see the data in UK. So that means you need to put a security in place. So what are the security will be in the responsibility? It could be various types of security. There's many of them. So for example, when I checked this company, what they mentioned was, okay, set up a responsibility. So basically they've done a very, very good due diligence. So this is one of the responsibilities they want. This is how they want the menu to be. So, and they said this the security profile called default. So if I keep on going, so there's always a page. So yeah, so they also want this is one of the responsibility. Now responsibility means what the local HR will be using. For example, if you notice, the first one says HR administrator. HR administrator means the local HR. Remember, I was mentioning local HR. That means the local HR. This is what they're going to be using to enter the new hire, to terminate an existing employee, and also to maintain every employee. So the HR will be using HR administrator. Now we also have payroll. So there is also payroll administrator. Remember, in every company you have, everywhere, HR and payroll, they're always separate. Payroll, they deal with pay. So, and it's actually a specialized area. So they deal with pay, they deal with pension, they deal with all the allowances. They deal with a lot of things that's got to do with payments. So this is the responsibility which they're going to be using. So, and remember, this is going to be the security which they want to put in place. Also, absence administrator. Absence administrator will be somebody that will be dealing with absences, which is vacation, sick leave, it could various vacations, because when it comes to some organizations, they have different forms of vacations. So somebody will be dealing with that. So that's why they want a responsibility for an absence administrator. Now, for absence administrator, remember, somebody in HR can also do this. So they can have two responsibilities. Number one, to deal with anything HR, and number two, to deal with absence administrator. But most of the time, payroll administrator are always completely separate. That's why you always see HR and payroll, they're always separate. They're never together. So and also remember, the information payroll need to come from HR. Some of you are used to HR anyway, so you know the difference between HR and payroll. So also, there's one here which is called UK Simply HRMS Manager. I think this is a kind of now, because there's security in some of these. For example, absence administrator. In this absence administrator, there's going to be a security where absence administrator will never be able to see anything on payroll. Also, somebody on payroll administrator would not be able to see a lot in HR. So there's always a security in place. There's a limitation to what everybody can see. Even in HR, they would not be able to see a lot of things in payroll. So, and especially when it comes to pay and all those kind of things, they will not be able to see it. So there's always a security in place. Now, when it comes to this one, this is more like a super user. This super user responsibility can do everything. So there's always a responsibility that can do everything. So this anybody that owns this will be able to use this, will be able to use this, and will be able to do the HR. So that means there is a responsibility, no no limitation on security. You can do everything. So that's what that automatically means. And most of the time, it's always a manager that always have it, or maybe somebody who's a super user. Because in various organizations, you have a super user, and you always have I would just say an end user. So end user is somebody that's just does a manual entry. But super user, they are very good in what they do. They know virtually everything. So that's what it means. So they can actually have this kind of responsibility. So when I was looking at this as well, there's currency. So this is within you. So let's presume I'm doing an implementation for Britain. So for the organization or their entity or legal entity within UK. So yeah, I know. Yeah, I've got my currency needs to be GBP. Now, if it's going to be US, that's with USD. So depending on the country which you're working on. So if you're working on 3-4 countries at the same time, you can actually set up your currency at the same time. So there is a possibility for you to do. For example, I think sometimes in early this year, I work on 21 countries at the same time within a space of 6 months. So they almost kill me, but thank God I'm still alive. So because they are almost in a hurry, so they say, yeah, Sunday, 21 countries, please help us to implement this at the same time. It's not that easy. Even to do one is an headache. Now to do 21 countries is more headache. So if it's 21 countries, you can just set up their currency here. So that's what it means. So if I keep on going, so like I said, in some organization, they would have done their due diligence and they just hand this over to you. It's now up to you to read it, meditate on it, and know, yeah, this is what I'm going to implement. This could take you days to read, and it could take you hours to read. So, for example, let's presume I'm looking at this for the first time. This is pretty straightforward. When I was looking at it back 13 years ago, it wasn't that easy for me to read. It took me a long time to even read and understand what I need to do. So, but now, if I read this within a space of 1 or 2 hours, I will quickly understand what I need to do. And if they're not going to listen to me, I will just quickly implement whatever they want to do anyway. So yeah, so once you do this, so this is also organization structure. Organization structure, which is what I meant, is like, for example, if you're working on a global implementation, so what kind of organization structure will be in place? So that means there's one for UK, there's one for US, there's one for various countries. And if you're only working on UK, there will also be an organization structure within. So remember, that's what we call an hierarchy. So there's always a structure. One will be on top, and there's always, and a cascade below into various groups. So that's organized. So when later on we go to organization structure. Now there's always one which is called a business group. A business group will be, for example, if you're working on a multinational company and let's say they want to implement on, let's say, 3 countries. Let's say they want you to implement on 3 countries. Now for easy implementation, it's always good to start with a business group. A business group will be, let's say you just put UK on top, you put US on top, and maybe you put Canada on top. Let's just use those 3 countries. So those being on top, so you create what is called a business group. So that means there is like an hierarchy. So they will be right on top. So US, UK, and Canada. So everything you're going to be implementing will be on those 3 countries. So that's what they call a business group. So I'll send this to you. You can just quickly have a look. Now, and every business group is within Oracle, because every business, every country have their own legislation. Because when the moment you're setting up a business group, it automatically says, for example, UK, it automatically comes with every single information, every legislation within UK for you. If it's US, it comes with every legislation. Now you cannot join US and UK together. They're not one. They're completely separate. Now there's some company they can tell you, no, even though we are operating on a multinational level, we have 21 countries. please have only one business group. Now that's going to be a little bit challenging because legislation and I was just legislation and a lot of information specific to countries are completely separate. So that's going to be a very big challenge. I've never done that before. My own experience is to have separate business groups so everybody can be on their own, and everybody, because Oracle, in Oracle, they actually set up different countries. Even Nigeria is also in Oracle. So it's has its own legislation. So within the legislation, you can now there's some countries which are a little bit similar to one another. For example, UK and Nigeria, they kind of the same. They're kind of similar. So in that kind of scenario, if the countries are similar, you can use one business group. But most of the time, they're not always similar. If they're not similar, just have separate business group, and that will make your life very easy. And also in terms of security, it will make things very easy for you. And there's some, like I said, every country have their own legislation. Every country have their own union. Every country have their own specific things for those specific countries. So if you try to merge everything in one business group, that's going to be a nightmare for you, especially when you're doing implementation. So but if you separate it, security will be very easy. So yeah, so this is business group details. So once when I'm doing the implementation next week, we can actually go into that. So if I keep on going, so when you're doing various business, if you notice, when you're setting up a business group, these are the information which it actually needs. So it says minimum age 18. So that means if you try to hire somebody who's less than 18, it's not going to take it. If you're trying to hire somebody who's more than 65 years old, it's not going to take it. It's going to tell you, no, I'm not going to do it. I remember in UK, our fiscal year is April. And this is what I'm saying. For example, in UK, our fiscal year is April. In US, I don't know the fiscal year in US. I think it might be January. In in Canada, it might be February. So if you're trying to create one business group for many countries, this is going to put you up because it says the currency. Can you see? There's no way you can only pick up one at a time. So you can only pick up GBP for UK. So you cannot put GBP, US, Canadian currency. You cannot pick up many countries. You can only select one at a time. So that's why it's always good to have one business group per various countries. It makes your life very easy. So and also remember, I said minimum age. Maybe in US the minimum age is 16. So also the maximum age, it could be 70. So which might differ from various countries. So that's why it's always good to have various business groups, which makes security easy. So also, if I keep on moving, so I've got location here as well. So location, like I said, you need to set up various locations. Locations is also used by financials. So there might be a situation where you are working on HR, some other people are working on financial. So you can work hand in hand because the two of you are going to be using the same location. There's not so, and you can actually, once you set up the location, financial people can actually use it. Or once they set up the location, you can also use it. Remember, you are operating on different systems. Oracle Financial is completely different from Oracle HR, but one way or the other, they're linked. So they're all linked. There's something that actually links them. One of the things that actually link them is location. Another thing that links them is organization, because financial also use organization, financial use location. So they link one way, and also financial use I think they also use flex field. So financial use accounting flex field, which is for costing, while HR use what is called people group flex field. So people group flex field and accounting flex field, they are linked because they are the same. So because every one of them they're using the same segment. So and the information in the segment are used by the two. So even though in the accounting they call it accounting flex field, in HR we call it people group flex field, so which is called key flex field. So basically they are linked. So there's a way. So but in some organization, if they are not using Oracle Financial, don't worry yourself. You just set it up, because most of the organization they will eventually operate Oracle Financial. When I was doing this for this company, they already have financial in place. So that makes my life easy. So they already have financial. So they've already set up the location. I was able to use their location. They've already set up the organization. I was able to use their organization. They've already set up accounting flex suite for costing information. I was able to set up people group, key flex field. I was able to adapt their own fields and also the same name. So it was easy for me to, because it's already been done. Okay, so if I keep on going. So like I said, this is just a preamble just for you to understand, because this is going to be sent to anyone on this list. So just for you to have a look, because in all honesty, when you get to some company, like I said, you either do this yourself or they've already done it for you. But most of the time, I can assure you, 90% is not been done. You need to do it. So it's only very few companies that would have done it for you. So also, like I said, there is organization hierarchy, and this is where the business group comes from. So that means the business group is right on top, and there's organization that cascade below the hierarchy. So if I keep on going, yeah. So this is job. Like I mentioned, I set up, needs to be job. Like I said, job is being generic. Position, if you notice, position functionality will not be used. This is always common in a lot of organizations. It's difficult to, that's why they call it position management. You will never see any company that says job management or grade management. Position management is very difficult. You need to keep on changing position all the time. So that's why it's difficult. A lot of companies, they don't always like to use it. The functionality is there, but they don't always like to use it because they need to recruit somebody to keep on maintaining it every 6 months or every 1 year. For example, I've worked in NHS. They use position a lot because they have a lot of people who work in pools. Pool, like maybe there's only one position and 3 people are doing that position. So that's why in most big organizations, they don't like using it because they believe, okay, one person should take one position, not for 3-4 people to be doing one job or one position. So yeah, so position, we don't need to deal with it, to be honest, but if we got the time, I can show you how it works. So you can just have a look. But most of the organization, they hardly use it because it's complicated. It's not that difficult to implement, but it's difficult to maintain. So yeah, so like I said, we have grades, we have rates, and also pay scale, so which is like a range. Now this is a grade name. Grade rates. Grade rates is the same thing, almost the same thing with grade range. So rate is the same thing with grade. So like I said, rates will be, let's say, between 25K to 35K. So which will be within the range. Grade progression, we don't need to set this up, so you can just ignore this. So okay, I will just quickly go to the next one. So when you open this page, you're going to be seeing a lot of gaps, because this is with me for a very long time. So there's always a gap, then you need to go to the next one. So sorry about that, but just ignore it. Now I just say please ignore and use a proper one. So I've written this like 30 years ago. This is another page within Oracle. Nobody used this, so just ignore this page. So just go to the next one. So person details. So this is remember I mentioned something here, which I'll just quickly go to my spreadsheet. I said person type. Yeah, person type. I said employee contingent. So this is some of the Oracle standard, which is on Oracle. In Oracle, you see applicants, beneficiary, candidates, contingent workers. So these are standard within Oracle. So, and if you check, you will see employee. So I'll pick up employee there, and contingent, you can see contingent worker. So there's some companies, they actually, but this is standard. So you can just pick up anyone you want. For example, some people, they pick up applicant. The reason why they have an applicant is if they're going through the recruitment process. That means the recruitment process will be you interview them. For interview, let's say interview 1, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. So if they're going through all the process, while they're in the, you can actually set them up in the system as an applicant. So they're still applying. That doesn't mean they're actually going to stay. So now, if they say, yeah, I'm taking up the job. So you actually recruited them. They're taking up the job. So they now move from an applicant to an employee. If notice, it says applicants, ex-applicants. So you change them from applicants to ex-applicants, and they now become an employee. So there's so many here which you can use. If you're terminating somebody, you use ex-employee. So there's so many information here. Some of them are used, and some of them, to be honest, you don't really need them anyway. So very few of them are used. Contact is always your contact will be your family, your next of kin, or your spouse, or your children, or also we have beneficiary people. I mean, in case anything happens to an employee in the future, who are the beneficiaries. So all the beneficiaries will actually be put on the system as well. So that's why you have all this information. So looking at this, these are just standard. Doesn't mean they are actually going to implement everything. You can just choose maybe 4 or 5 which will be applicable to you. And remember, like I said, some of these might be applicable to UK, some of them might not be applicable to Canada. So depend on whatever the requirement is. So if I keep on going, now title. Remember, we mentioned title. So we have Dr. Mace, Mr., Mrs., so Mace, and Professor. So you have various, but most of these are actually standard. So, but some countries, they say, yeah, we want more. For example, maybe in Nigeria, they want engineer, they want chief, they want various titles, so you can just add more. If you notice, these are just kind of list of values which I mentioned, which is set up from the back end. So you can actually go in and set this up from the back end. But if you don't set it up from the back end, Oracle standard, I think most of these are actually Oracle standard. But if you want to add more, you can actually add more as well. So let me keep on going. Employee numbering. Now, employee numbering would be, for example, if you create an employee on the system, you want it to be automatically generated. You don't want to put employee number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and start doing it manually, because you can probably make a mistake. So it's always good for it to be automated. So Oracle have a way to automate this. So when you're creating a business group, you just put automatic. So once you put automatic from the back end, it actually say number 1, number 2. No, it does it for you. So you don't need to start thinking of who's going to be number 1, who's going to be number 2, who's going to be number 3. So that's what they mean by employee ID numbering. So some of these at times are being customized, but you can actually use Oracle standard if you want to. So there's also something which you call, I will soon be rounding up because I'm considering the time. So there's something also called extra information type. This extra information type would be something like, because Oracle have standard fields, is standard, and in the standard field, you are not meant to create a new field within a standard field. If you do that, Oracle will not support. I'm talking of Oracle Corporation, because they give you the license. So you can do anything you want on the system. You can customize it, but don't customize the main pages. Oracle don't always like it. So that if there's any issue, because if you customize and there is an issue, if you mess up your system, then they will not support you, and that's it. So there's always a rule that don't customize the main page. Now, the reason why a lot of people want to do customization, or they want to add additional field, so it's because there's a new requirement within their company, or they have too much information. For example, if you work in NHS, there's so many information which they have, which Oracle do not put into consideration. But Oracle actually provided what is called an extra information type. In the extra information type, you can add anything you want. For example, disciplinary, there's something called disciplinary record. In Oracle standard, you will not see disciplinary record, but Oracle will allow you to go into what is called an EIT, extra information type, and create this and what is called extra disciplinary record. And in the disciplinary record, for example, when I saw this, so they want me to create this disciplinary level, reason for disciplinary date. So all this information in Oracle Standard is not there. So I have to create this from the back end so it can actually show in Oracle. So there's a page which is called EIT. You can actually add as much EIT as possible. So it will actually allow you to do that. So but I think it only allows close to, I think close to 20, between 20 and 30. You cannot go beyond that. So that's the maximum. So yeah. So basically, it allows you to do this. So so what I would do, so if you notice, there's disciplinary record. If I keep on going, there's more. So they want me to create what is called a training record. So no, I think this is actually an EIT. Let me just keep on going. If there's more, property, yeah, the property EIT. Yeah, I think that's it. But like I said, they actually wanted me to create only 4. But there's some companies, they have like 10. They have 20. Some of them can have even more than 20. So it allows you to do as much as possible. So, but hopefully next week I can go into EIT, then we can actually talk more about it, how it's actually done. So, like I said, this is a very, very useful information. I've sent it to the coordinator of this Blue Sky Citadel, Bolaji, and she will send it to you. Just have a look. Please just make sure you keep this to yourself. You don't need to give it to anybody. There's nothing confidential in it, but it's for you. So you don't need to give it to anybody. So, okay, I will just round up because I know we have only 3 minutes to go. So I will round up, and next week we will go through parts of this document and we will start doing the implementation. Even though the reason why I have to explain all this to you is you need to understand what you need to implement. If you don't understand what you need to implement, I can just go in and start implementing, but you're going to be confused. But it's better for me to say, look, this is what you can implement based on a specific document, and that's the reason why what I'm doing at the moment. So thank you very much. I'm done with the training for today. If you have any question, please let me know. So that we have only 3 more minutes. If you have any question, please put it on chat, then I'll just quickly read. Let me go to chat. Am I looking at this properly? Okay, somebody said, is there an Oracle ACM platform source? I want to believe you mean Oracle application for you to be able to test, do implementation, like a test environment. Yes, I'll send that to the coordinator, so hopefully she will send it to you today or maybe next week. So I'll send that to you. But I spoke to her yesterday. There could be a bit of Java issue, so we're still working on that. But the password and username, everything has been sent, and also the link is been sent to her. If you're very good in Java, please play around with it. If you're not very good in Java, please don't play around with it. I think as time goes on, we will let everybody know what kind of Java version which they need to use, so they can, because Java is always an issue when it comes to Oracle. So, and also your operating system as well. If you have very limited operating system, Java might be an issue. So, but this will be cascaded to everybody later on. So, what else? And I think that's it. So, charts. Yeah, I think. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, thank you, everybody. I hope I'm not missing any information on charts. Yeah, that's it. What kind of job can one apply with this skill? There's so many jobs you can apply. You can apply as I would just say probably as a BA, so Oracle HR BA. You can apply as Oracle support analyst. So support analyst will be you're only there to support an implementation that's already been done. You can also apply as Oracle HR test analyst. So somebody else has done the implementation, you're only there to test. Or you can actually apply as a consultant. That means you're there to implement. So there's various. I mean, I know of 4 or 5, and to be honest, the money is very good. So those are the kind of things which you can role which you can actually apply for. Okay, so we meet next week, God willing. Okay. Thank you, everybody.